Number of you, and you had, among other things, suggested that a lot more has to be done. Well, a group, backed by, I think it's the NDC, let me put it that way. The NDC is tomorrow holding a protest walk. They say they want to protest all the things that have been happening, the brutalities that people have had to suffer in the last few weeks. Also to draw government's attention to a number of concerns raised previously by the Fix the Country movement, and so they are holding that protest march tomorrow. However, there are a number of concerns. One has to do with the spread of COVID. Initially, many had suggested, well, you keep saying that COVID is a problem, but you're the same people who go for funerals, big funerals, and do all the things you want to do there. Yet you say COVID is a challenge, and so that cannot be a challenge. And so when the police had gone ahead to seek a bit of a restraining order from the courts, a lot of people who are part of this protest work suggested that that's very unfair, and so they went against it. They went contrary to that. Now we are told they have the all clear to hold this march, but we want to try and find out some more to see whether or not this is a genuine call for attention, whether really this is a call that the NDC wants the government to pay particular attention to fix all the several issues that have been raised, or perhaps it may just be a propaganda ploy to try and capitalize on the existing situation. We'll be back shortly.
What we do has consequences, intended and unintended. The decisions we make, the actions we bring, have weight.
When did it become a crime to succeed in this country?
We spotted a suspect trading pattern. All three firms have links to Bobby Axelrod.
Be careful out there.
Right, many thanks for staying with us right here on MX24 television. We are coming to you from our studios right here at East Legon, the Silicon Square, here in Accra. My name is Kwabena Chencheni Boateng, and this is Opposing Views. Now, in the past week, like I said, you've heard a lot about security, about brutality, about some form of demonstration or attempts to demonstrate, all kinds of things. On the back of the things that happened in Ejura and also in the Upper West Regional Capital, where we had shows on this platform and spoke on quite a number of them. We had a lot of stakeholders give their opinions on some of the things that were happening in the country. So I want us to start the tone or set the tone with some of those views. We'll take two of them, and then we'll dovetail into the real issue, the real reason why we are here today, which has to do with that very protest and its relevance at this particular point in time. So let's start with Muftar. I think we should start with Manasseh Azuri-Awini. He's a journalist with the Fourth Estate portal, and he had a lot to say, particularly on the back of the brutality meted out to his younger brother, who happened to be one of the persons who got caught up in all of that when some military officers decided to inflict wounds on people and show them how to punch and box because one of their colleagues had lost his mobile phone in a Pragya vehicle. Let's hear from Manasseh.
As we see it, is very terrible.
Terrible in a sense that a few weeks ago, there were calls on the police and other security agencies to step up their game and deal with the armed robberies and murders. Then the next moment, those we are asking to protect us now become the very people hurting and killing us. So what do the citizens do? So sometimes when these things happen and then we talk, I was very vocal on the Techiman South one. If you look at my Facebook page, I posted not less than 3 or 4 different things about that, and Twitter even more. Sometimes it appears so far away, but I could have lost a brother yesterday, not because he had gone to do anything wrong, because he had gone to work as a citizen of this country and somebody decided to do something stupid. And today there are people who are saying the word stupid I used was too harsh. But if you go to the families that are nursing injuries, there are people who are injured. Some may have to live with it for the rest of their lives.
That's true.
This week, some people have become orphans just because somebody decided to go and then kill them for no reason. And so if the killings and brutalities, if the word stupid is what people are concerned about, then I may say that is even very mild.
So you just heard Manasseh Asiriah, the award-winning journalist, raise certain issues with the state of security in the country, and how a lot of people had taken him on because he had used the word stupid in a post he had put up. And he suggested that, well, there's a lot more we need to be focusing on, not a description of something as stupid. And okay, let's now hear from the Executive Director for the West Africa Center for Counter-Terrorism, Mutaru Mukhtar. He was also on opposing views a few days back, and he also had quite a lot to share about the state of security in the country and how, if you are not careful, looking at the rate at which a lot of people appear to be angry with the system, a lot more can happen. Let's hear from him.
And government has responded.
Right.
That is what we are expected to do. But I listened to the content, and there's nothing that convinces me that we would arrive at any good conclusion in terms of the investigations and possible prosecutions out of it. Look, the purposelessness and uselessness and futility of calling for investigations and commissions when state security officers are involved in wrongdoing is in the Emil Short Commission report that was conducted here when the infamous Ayawaso Wagon West incident happened in this country. When military officials, operatives I describe as militia men, imputed into a system by the same politicians engaged in carnage, that Emil Short Commission report was the most fantastic piece of report regarding the restructuring and reform of our security sector. And yet, government dismissed the entire report, almost entirely dismissed it and discredited it. It involved structural recommendations and personal liabilities of individuals involved in wrongdoing. Nothing happened. Official communication from government actually dismissed this report. We've seen several instances in cases of police involvement wrongdoing. They tell us publicly that the investigations are underway. A committee is set up. A team is working on, investigations, and nothing, zilch, comes out of it. What the minister came to say is just a public relations stunt. Of course, to assuage the fears and calm nerves of people who probably are still angry, seething in anger regarding this incident. And so I don't place so much premium on that statement. But we need to calm nerves. We need to calm nerves to be able to, find our way out of this. Because the young people, significant number of young people in the area are still angry. And they are only calm because their local leadership have spoken to them. The traditional leaders and youth leaders have engaged them of course, together with other local leaders.
Right.
And so it's important to put this into context and ensure that we prevail on security agencies and leaders, the political leaders, to ensure that this time it is different. We would put pressure on them enough to ensure that things do not go as usual.
Okay, that was the West Africa Center for Counter-Terrorism Executive Director, Mutaru Mukhtar, there, suggesting that a lot more has to be done by government to try and deal with the several concerns raised by a number of people in the country as far as security is concerned and as far as issues of brutality are concerned. I told you that quite a number of people have been commenting on this. You do remember that very issue of Fix the Country, that demonstration which was supposed to happen some time back. It did not happen because the court had placed an injunction on a number of things that happened there. And so today, though, the NDC says it's going to hold this very protest march. It's going to be tomorrow. And so we'll get them to explain a few things to us. In fact, Eric Edemagbana is the Deputy Youth Organizer for the Opposition National Democratic Congress. He's joining us now on phone. Agbana, good afternoon, and many thanks for joining us on Opposing Views today.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, and good afternoon to our viewers.
Right. Okay. Agbana, before you continue, let me also mention that we have the Public Relations Officer for the Accra Regional Police Command, DSP Efia Tenge, also joining us, as well as Kweku Segbefia, a lead member of Occupy Ghana. Mensa Thompson, who is the Executive Director for ASEPA, is also joining, as well as the Deputy General Secretary for the Ghanaian New Patriotic Party. Nana Obribwahin will also join in the conversation in a short while. So thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. We are really grateful you've taken time off to join us. Now, Agbana, the NDC says you are... Tell us a bit more about your preparations so far as tomorrow's protest walk is concerned.
Okay, thank you so much. And let me say good afternoon to the other colleagues and senior citizens on the panel with you this afternoon.
Right.
I'm very happy that we have the opportunity to talk about our march for justice tomorrow. You will agree with me that the state of insecurity in this country has reached its heightened state. As you move out of your house every morning and you're back, you don't feel safe. You don't feel safe because we are living in a country where there are news every single day, multiple news of gun violence, multiple news of violence, armed robbery, and all of these things that are happening as we speak. But in addition to the insecurity, we believe that what is even making it worse, or what has worsened the situation for Ghana, is the fact that there is so much injustice in the system, and this injustice is being perpetrated some or mostly by our security agencies. I do not want to be drawn into giving you the history of how far we have arrived here by starting with Ayawa Soweto Gun and all of those things. But you agree with me that in the past few weeks, members of the security services, some police, military, and the other security agencies have been involved in some acts of violence. And what they have done is that they perpetrate this injustice. They are trying to actually shut down voices of dissent. And nobody is punished for it. There is no punitive measures that is being meted out, no sanctions given out to the perpetrators of this act. And so we in the NDC believe that all these gross injustice that we are experiencing are things that have received the absolute endorsement of the President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and his government, because that is the only explanation that we can offer for what is happening. Now, let me give you some details as to why we are wholly blaming the government for these things. Let me start with the police council. We have seen how members of the police service, some police officers, so indisciplined, have engaged in some acts of violence and perpetrated acts of injustice against citizens. But the police service will always come out with cover-ups, no punishment given to officers who are engaged in this act. We know that the Vice President of the Republic is the chairperson of the Police Council. As we speak, the IGP long stay in office, even though he has long past the age of retirement. He is still occupying the office as if he's even offering any excellent service and all of that, but nothing is happening, no punishment is given, and we can see these things still being done. The police officers who were engaged in shooting and beating or maiming innocent citizens have all gone not punished. We are focusing our discussion today on even what just happened in Ejura. Look at what happened in Ejura. We all saw the videos. Indeed, the gentleman who was initially killed or beaten to death, the gentleman, Kaka, yeah. We all know he has been a social media activist. He was doing these things against even the NDC government when we were in power. But nothing happened to him. The gentleman received threats from bodyguards of the MCE. Everybody in the community. When I was in Ejura last week, Thursday, they will tell you that when he received the threat, at the point the bodyguards of the MCE even accosted him to a public place and warned him that they know he is a member of their party NCE. But if he does not stop making the government unpopular, they were going to deal with him. The police service, in fact, the police in Ejura also wrote a warning letter to the gentleman. You have seen those letters. And then after this gentleman was murdered, people were naturally agitated. These are unarmed citizens, unarmed young men and police to open firearms on them and shooting at them. We saw the videos. You saw videos where military men even had to squad to shoot. We don't disperse agitating crowd in that manner. So Kaka is gone. 3 others have followed. Others are injured, and it is pathetic. Then you hear the police, the military come up with some very ridiculous cover-up and pretending as if all is well. So we are basically going onto the street to march for justice. And by justice, we are asking for justice for all victims of police and military brutality. But by fighting for justice, we are marching for justice. We are asking that the government must take steps to investigate and punish perpetrators of this act. What is also more worrying today is the fact that we all know the prescribed dressing code and ethics of both the police and the military. Let DSP Efia tell all Ghanaians that in the past 4 years, whether they have reviewed their ethics, such that today we see police officers, we see military men wearing earrings in dreadlocks and dressed in manner that we all know these are not professionally recruited police officers. That is why many of them are able to perpetrate the kind of acts that they do and they go unpunished. We all know that the men who are dressed up in the national security apparel, we know how the commission after the Ayawa SOS Ugon recommended the dissolution of the National Security Council, but that has not been done. And these people continue to perpetrate acts of injustice and acts of violence on citizens, on armed citizens, and nobody gets punished. So tomorrow we are making a big statement that enough of the police brutality, enough of the military brutality, and we will not sit down as Ghanaians and allow these things to continue any longer. We are marching for justice, and we are inviting every Ghanaian to come on board and actually help us make that big statement. In conclusion,
right?
There are many other stories that the media is not even carrying. Are you aware that on the 27th of April, in a community, the Eastern region called Insotari or something, if I get the pronunciation right, police moved, killed some people and said that they were armed robbers. There is nothing wrong if the police, in their attempt to arrest armed robbers, they engage in some minimum application of force. Just 3 or 5 days ago, in fact on the 29th of June, another man was killed in the same community, and members of the man's family are suspecting that actually he had video evidence of the earlier 27th incident, and the police came warning and they were looking for him, And in a manner after that, the police tweeted that the man was an armed robber. They had retrieved 3,000 AK-47 ammunition. I'm asking that who, even the police service themselves, do they have up to 3,000 AK-47 ammunition in this country? That you do these things, come out with all these funny tweets and the covers and all of that. Look, where we are headed, you can see the things that are happening. People are so angry. There is so much agitation in this country, and the police service must begin to realize that they are not an extension of a wing or a department of the government or the any political party.
All right.
They must be firm, they must be independent and ensure that they protect all Ghanaians. I don't feel safe. I don't know about you. I don't feel safe. And I have taken a personal decision that these days, in the evening when I am moving and the police tries to stop me to check, until the police produce an ID card and things that beyond reasonable doubt convinces me that they are proper policemen, I will not even stop if I'm alone, because this act of violence, this act of police brutalities and things that are going on, it is simply too much. We are headed for doom as a country if we do not take steps to correct this.
All right. Adam, thank you for those words there. From what I gather from what you're saying, you appear to be against the system, the police service, for instance, allowing, or the hierarchy of the police not ensuring that persons who fall foul of the law are sanctioned appropriately and the like. Anyway, I won't go too much into the merits of the argument, though, because some of the things you had mentioned, when I hear your colleagues on the other side argue, they raise quite a number of things also. The allegations you've made against the police as well, the police has actually come out to give their position on it. So whatever you say still remains allegations and most likely unproven allegations. But let's stick to the facts of the matter. Yes, you may have some genuine concerns, but one would say on the back of a seeming surge in COVID cases. I think as of yesterday when I checked, there were about 114 new cases. A number of them, we are told, are now the Delta variant, that very strain we were all scared of. Some say it is more, in fact, the researchers tell us that that is 10 times more contagious than what we used to know from the normal COVID. And so, organizing such a protest, yes, with such good intentions, but in such a period, don't you think you are putting a lot more lives at risk in your bid to seek justice for some lives?
Well, let me say first and foremost that as a political party organizing the demonstration tomorrow, we are going to put in place measures to ensure some compliance with the COVID-19 protocols. That is a first assurance I want to give. However, COVID cannot be an excuse to allow the government to continue perpetuating all these injustices. And why am I saying so? The police service had their members, had their top hierarchy in, what was the name? At Sir John's funeral. The president, who is the commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces, was there. The vice president, who is the chairperson or the leader of the police council, was also there. And we saw what happened
Adam, granted, my point is this, though. My focus is not really on what may have happened in the past. Hold on. Even on the issue of COVID, granted. But I'm saying, we have now identified this new strain, which you and I know is more contagious than the previous one.
And I'm telling you that we will make sure that demonstrators comply with COVID protocols. However, in addition to my answer or my assurance, I'm telling you that this same police service that are using COVID to try to stop demonstrations, they were there when Sir John's funeral was organized. They were there when President Akufo-Addo went on visit last weekend. School children were packed like sardines to welcome him. No mask, nothing, no adherence to any of the protocols. So it is hypocritical to try to even use COVID-19 as a reason to try and prevent protests and all of that. When the police service themselves and the military, the security agencies are aiding and abetting members of the government to commit or to disobey, actually throw to the dogs all the COVID protocols. I am saying that yes, our protest will make sure that as far as possible, all protesters adhere, comply with the COVID-19 protocol. But let the police or the military, none of them have the moral authority to even raise issues with COVID, because they simply supervise the complete disregard for some of these rules over the past few weeks and months. So it cannot be the case that they will be using that as an excuse to prevent us. One thing is clear, that our country is sitting on a time bomb. If we do not rise up, protest, and get the right things done, fight for justice, for those who deserve justice, the police, the military, President Akufo-Addo and his government will continue to use this COVID-19 and the discovery of new variants and what have you as an excuse to cover up for their criminal activities. We will not allow that to happen.
Okay,
so tomorrow, we will make a big statement on the streets of Accra tomorrow and extend it to the other regions. The right things must be done. Ghanaians must be protected.
Thank you for those words.
I'm
going to hold on briefly. Let me get the reaction from the Public Relations Officer for the Accra Regional Police Command, Deputy Superintendent of Police, Efia Tenge, who is joining us now. Madam, good afternoon. Many thanks for joining us on Opposing Views today.
Hello, thank you very much.
Great. It's good to see you, and I know you are really busy, but you managed to squeeze some time for us today, so we are really grateful for that. Let's start by, I'm sure you may have listened to Eric Edemagbana when he made quite a number of allegations suggesting that the police may have been complicit in the ensurance that people adhere to the protocols, and so any attempt to try and use COVID as an excuse to not let them go on this protest may not really wash. But of course, aside that, he made a few more allegations and the like. Maybe I would hear your reaction to a number of them first, and then maybe I can ask maybe one or two more questions, and then we can proceed.
Yes, thank you.
Right.
I want to say that the police have turned down a number of missions for demonstration because of the looming danger we have all been made to understand. The coronavirus itself actually brings to bear. And so we've been going back and forth on a number of conveners of their intention to go on demonstration.
Right.
Yes, this one was also brought to the attention of the command. That was, I think, last week. I was not even around. And so I can only confirm that, yes, a number of discussions have been held with the leadership of the conveners or the organizers. And so we have also prepared to give them the protection or give them the security for them to embark on the demonstration.
But yes, why the U-turn though? Because I know that the police had mentioned that the time was not right for such a thing to happen, and you had raised a number of concerns. Why the sudden U-turn? Is it that COVID is no longer a threat, for which reason you are saying, oh, you can go ahead and hold your protest march?
I have told you that I don't know what has gone into the decision.
Okay.
Because I was not around.
Okay.
But that is the confirmation I'm giving you that yes, tomorrow that demonstration is coming on. I cannot tell you that 1 and 2 reasons were considered because I was not part of the meeting.
Right.
And so for what I can confirm on my desk is what I am giving you, that yes, that as we have been made to do by providing the necessary security for the march, that is what I can brief you on, because that is what is available to me. And so if you wouldn't mind, I can take us through the route.
Kindly do.
For protesters or people who will be embarking on the demonstration to also be aware of what is happening. Yes, we know that in the morning, and that is tomorrow, we would convene at that's the Green Park, which is opposite Accra Mall. That's Accra Mall area.
Okay.
Then we'll move towards through Opebi. Then we would make a turn left towards the Aviation Social Center Road. Then we'll go through the Lands Commission traffic lights, where we will go straight ahead to where Christ the King is. Then we would, that the petitioners would present a petition to the officials to say at the Jubilee House. Then we'll continue that we are using tomorrow. And we expect that the police officers who are there, we have also deployed to ensure that we, the security agencies, we take cognizance of the fact that the coronavirus still exists. And so we have made arrangements in that regard to give them the protection. And all arrangements are in place as we speak now. We would implore all those who are also embarking on the demonstration, who will be part of the march, to also make sure they comply with the route and assist so that we can all march through this demonstration very peacefully.
Okay. We have seen a number of such walks or protest marches, which may not have necessarily ended as we anticipated it to. My quick question now would be what you require of the organizers in order to ensure that we do not hear of anything unsavory by close of day when this march is over.
Yes, I think all organizers have a duty call. They have a responsibility to ensure that once you lead any protest, if you lead any demonstration, you are obliged to also ensure that the protest is also peaceful. So it is not a duty that is on the security or the law enforcement agency. In the same Public Order Act that gives them the right to embark on any demonstration, it also behoves on them to make sure that they also comply with the rules and ensure that their followers also heed to their call and ensure that they obey their also instructions. And we know the same act also has also put the responsibility where, in view of any other, if there's any other, let me say, outcome, undesirable outcome, they would also be held to their own words. So that is why the law on public order management spells out clearly on what is obliged of all of us, what we are supposed to do, the duty of the leaders and also the followers. Okay. So we are guarding the route. We are ensuring that all property are also well protected. Right. All any other person who is also coming to receive a petition is well protected. We are ensuring that human and vehicular traffic is also well directed and managed so that tomorrow come to an end of this demonstration peacefully. Okay. So we'll do what it takes for us to do, per the law has spelled out for us to do.
I'm only wondering now how the police will likely ensure the adherence of social distancing and the wearing of nose masks for each and every one, several hundreds or perhaps even thousands joining in this protest march. Is the police even in a position to ensure that everybody is in a nose mask and that social distance protocols are being adhered to and the like? How is it going to work?
I think this question you should ask the conveners, because I think these are some of the issues the police have entered a number of ways by which we can live. And especially when we are congregating in such large masses and numbers, it becomes very difficult for all of us to adhere to these protocols. Okay. And so we keep on going back and forth as to some public order event somewhere that has gone bad, leaders have complicit and all that. And so I think that they are saying that they are going to respect all other COVID-19 protocols, including the wearing of masks and social distancing. So I think that you should ask them. But for the police's angle, we thought that these were very difficult situations for conveners to manage. They are telling us that, yes, they can ensure.
All right. Madam, thank you.
Find out from the leader as to how they are.
I'm going to ask that question of Edem Agbana in a short while, but at this point, let me rope in Mensa Thompson. He's the Executive Director for ASEPA. He's also part of our panel. Mensa, good afternoon, and thanks for joining us. Sorry for keeping you on hold for quite a while, but as you sit and observe, there's a decision by a party to go on this protest walk, and you hear the police raising some of these concerns and citing.
Well, thank you very much. A very good afternoon to your cherished viewers and listeners. Well, I think that we're in a very difficult situation as a country, and not every country wants to be in the position that we are in. I think that the concerns among a number of us have been the threat of insurgency around us in neighboring Burkina Faso, Mali, Cote d'Ivoire, and even Togo. And so when you have a country like Ghana, which is like the buffer in the sub-region in terms of peace and ensure it's one of the beaming democracies to the extent that it has been labeled the gateway to Africa.
Right.
Then when you see some of these things happening, you'll be quite worried. Seeming uprising that is currently brewing in the country. But let me correct a few things which DSP Efia Tenge said on this representation. And if you see most of the reports that has come out after the meeting between the IGP and the NBC, the reports were that the IGP or the police have given clearance. And Ms. Efia Tenge also repeated the same thing, that the police have given them.
No, she only said the police is ready to provide the necessary security after further.
She said the police. She said the police has received a number of notification for protests which they have denied.
So as the law requires, you notify the police, and then once you notify them, they will then write to you and let you know. And not, then perhaps you may not be in a position to do that, because it's not just about you demonstrating. It's also about the police ensuring that there's peace and calm in the country.
It is very clear on the processes that must happen really good. The notification the Public Order Act requires that protesters give to the police. It's in furtherance of the provision of security to these demonstrators. It's not in respect of a permission or a clearance. And so when I hear headlines like police give clearance for demonstration to happen, I get worried, because we need to be very clear. The right to protest is a constitutional right enshrined or accrued to every Ghanaian under the law. And so we cannot allow certain, abuse of sentences to take those rights away. When you say the police, it means that it's actually the police that is giving you the power. This registration exercise, we went through an election which about 17 million people gathered and voted. The process of electing our leaders. Then COVID cannot also bring an end to the exercise of our democratic rights, which is the right to civil procession. And so this whole overblown conversation about COVID, of course, with a few days, I don't really appreciate it. If it is in a way to downplay the impact of the demonstrators, or if it's in a way to create the demonstrators as people who are heartless people and people who do not care about the citizens or the health and safety of the citizens, then I think that it will fail, because we've seen public officials engage in a number of things in this COVID era, including the president, the commander.
Okay. I think Mr. Thompson's line is not very clear. We'll try and rectify that, for which he thinks there may be a deliberate attempt by perhaps government or some other persons to push up that very agenda and to then downplay the relevance of the demonstration. Let's hear from Nana Obribwai. He's the Deputy General Secretary of the governing New Patriotic Party. Nana, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, my brother.
Hope you're well. And you've heard a lot of these concerns, and you have followed a lot of the things that may have happened. In Ejura, a certain gentleman was beaten by, allegedly, members of your party, stabbed at some point. He went to the hospital to seek treatment. He died. People were agitated by that. They decided to protest. And military officers were sent or deployed to the ground. They went around shooting people, and to the extent that 2 people even lost their lives. In Wa, similar incident happened. Policemen went on rampage, beating people left, right, center. And now what's happening with the NPP?
Oh, I think you need to cross-check your facts. How do you hold the NPP answerable for all these things? Do you have the facts with regard to what happened in Nigeria?
Yes, I have.
You assume that you don't have the facts at all.
Okay, give us your facts.
You don't have the facts at all.
Nano Briboin, give us your facts.
Because some of us are serious. Some of us have the first-hand information from Nigeria.
There have been reports. Nana, hold on, no. There have been reports that Kaka may have been stabbed by a family member and the like. All of those are reports that have come in. But what is on record has to do with the fact that it was a mob action.
I'm a lawyer by profession.
Sure.
A committee has been set up. I don't need to make any prejudicial comment.
Right.
I don't need to run any extensive commentary that will preempt the outcome of the committee's deliberation. Common sense dictates that we should keep our fingers crossed, wait for the committee to finish with their deliberation. That is all. How do you heap the blame on the New Patriotic Party that it was the MPP? Why do you put the blame on MPP? Then you better ask Sinyane what happened in Sinyane yesterday. And that one also.
When people raise concerns about the state of security in the country, for ensuring the safety of each and every Ghanaian of the land, and so if by extension,
listen,
yes,
this case must be considered on its merit. Ejura, what happened? How do you hold the president responsible? How do you hold the MPP responsible? It's unfortunate, opposition. But how do you hold the MPP responsible? How do you hold the president responsible? Now, why? Once again, I'll condemn what happened in Wa without the slightest reservation. Why do you hold the MPP responsible?
So, Nana, the reason why a number of people say perhaps we should begin to point fingers at the higher authorities is the fact that if crime goes unpunished or unchecked on a number of occasions, and we do know that if the president or any other person in higher authority is to demand accountability from certain persons, when some of these things may have happened in the past, perhaps some of these things could have been avoided. And so if it keeps happening, if it keeps recurring, then there's the tendency that maybe there's a problem with leadership, for which reason they are blaming leadership.
That is never correct.
Okay, that's far-fetched in your opinion?
That is never correct.
Okay.
I am saying that is never correct. Look, with due respect to you and listeners, somebody was shot to death in Kumasi at the NDC regional office. Do you think that it would be reasonable enough to say that all NDC members must be held answerable? Come on, judgment. We are afraid to. We need to be very serious with this country. As for those attention seekers, I don't think I need to be wasting my time on them.
You're calling the NDC a bunch of attention seekers?
Attention seekers. All of us are worried about these acts of indiscipline and lawlessness. Yes. But certainly, you cannot hold the MPP responsible or the president responsible. What happened in what?
Now, let me ask then. A few years back, when there were power outages in the country, a number of people, including communicators from the NPP, went on radio citing incompetence on the part of the then president John Dramani Mahama as reason for which there was no power. Meanwhile, he does not work with Gridco, nor ECG, nor Netco. So, if that argument holds...
That analogy is wrong.
Okay.
That analogy is fatally flawed.
Okay.
And that analogy is incurably bad.
Let's hear your counter, sir.
It's disingenuous. That analogy is disingenuous.
No, let's hear your counter.
Bad, fatally flawed. Why? A soldier has lost his mobile phone and then a group of soldiers took to the street to innocent citizens. How do you blame the president?
And it's not an issue in isolation. If you...
No, it's electricity, non-availability of electricity is different from indiscipline and lawlessness. Ejura, like I said, let me hold my fire at the appropriate time. Something untoward has happened. And that's why I said I'll condemn unreservedly those who attacked Kaka. It was a hallmark of indiscipline and lawlessness. However, I don't see how you should hold the president or the new patriotic party responsible. Ironically, even you started by saying that the MPP must be held responsible for the attack unleashed on Kaka. How? Why and how did you draw that conclusion?
Nana, you know, so these are some of the reasons why people say the MPP appear to be shooting itself in the foot when it comes to some of these things. Because one, acknowledging the problem is part of solving the problem. But if you cannot even acknowledge that perhaps there's some level of responsibility leadership must take, then you must have lost the plot.
The police didn't act professionally.
And who is supposed to be ensuring that the police acts professionally? That's the IGP. Who put the IGP there? It's the president. And so if the IGP... No, Nana, hold on. If you own a company and you have appointed the CEO to act on your behalf, and the CEO is not acting in the best interest of your company, do you allow him or her to function? Don't you sack the person and get a more competent person?
Come on.
Are you by extension saying the president does not have the authority to hire and fire when it comes to who leads? I'm asking a straightforward. Who does that, correct?
So you should go far to know the content of the Constitution.
Nana, we are aware of we know the Constitution. We know what it says. The Constitution has vested power in the executive, in the president. And I'm saying, is it
a soldier, when a police officer or a soldier acts on the front of his school, you don't hold the leader responsible.
I see.
But when he does that in cause of, you started by saying the MPP must be held answerable for why and then Ejura. I said, oh, how?
That was not a question. That was not a question I asked. What I asked was what was happening to the NPP. That's all I asked.
What will happen to the NPP?
What was happening to the NPP? But let's fast forward to what is going to happen tomorrow. There's going to be a protest march.
Comply with the Public Order Act.
Right.
Activists. Why should I condemn those who want to take to the street?
Awesome.
The police.
So let me ask this though. I think I may know the answer, but I'll still ask anyway. Are you by any chance joining the NDC in this protest march?
Oh, I feel that I am interested in sympathizing with the people of Wa and Ejura. They're not.
And that is exactly what this march is about. They are marching for justice. They want justice for the people in Ejura and Wa.
Where justice means what? Let's come back. Where justice means what? They want to take to the street to demonstrate, to draw the attention of the police officers of the Public Order Act. So be it. But I'm saying that, look, sometimes you don't need to. There's not much time for attention seekers.
Okay.
I call them attention.
All right, Nana, thank you. Let me take reactions from Mensa Thompson of ASEPA, and then we'll wrap up with Eric Edemagbana. Mensa Thompson, let's hear you. Your reaction to what Nana
Bubuahen, mostly when he communicates on behalf of government, rather ends up putting the government in so much trouble after his comments, because he always forgets that the party is in government. The party for which he's a deputy general secretary for is in government. And when you're in government, your communication, it should totally be different from when you're in opposition. And so when you're in government, you have a huge responsibility, and you owe Ghanaians, irrespective of which political party they belong to, some certain amount of responsibility for which you must be able to deliver. And so when we come out in this manner to dismiss, or mostly to rubbish, a very valid sentiment of a large section of the population, then we may be living in oblivion, which could come back to haunt the entire country. My brother, what is happening in the country now is worrying. And I want to point out to a few things which I believe that is a very negative indicator of where our country is going to. Number one,
right.
There seems to be a paramilitary group in this country. You see, after the Ejura incident, I spoke with a lot of military officers who confirmed to me that they can swear on their lives that those men who went to Ejura to shoot and kill those innocent people are not military men. after them, in the aftermath, we've seen images of these military men in dreadlocks, some in beard, and some in all form of, personal lifestyles.
Which is usually unlike military
officers. The military people behind the scenes, yes, and the military people behind the scenes are denying that these people are not their men.
Okay.
So it means that the country may have some existence of a paramilitary group.
Okay, Mensa, let's wrap up in
which
2
we
minutes.
don't know.
2 minutes, please.
And how these paramilitary group, yes, and how these paramilitary group are getting access to military uniforms and military regalia to execute those things.
Right.
It's quite worrying, and we must be very careful.
Okay.
We must bear in mind of the threat of insurgency from neighboring Burkina Faso and Mali, and ensure that we do not plunge this country into chaos.
Right.
Let me end by done a couple of media advocacy in the international media space. I spoke with them, with VOA, Voice of America news channel, about some of these developments in country. We believe that Ghana's democracy, which until recently was enviable in the sub-region, is under serious attack. And it's important that the international community draw their attention onto Ghana and put in the necessary measures to ensure that we forestall any possibility of mayhem in this particular country.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. He's with us, SEPA. Let's get final comments from Eric Edem Agbana, the Deputy Youth Organizer for the Opposition National Democratic Congress. Agbana, we have 60 seconds. Agbana, can you hear me? Okay, we've lost him, but we've even run out of time. Okay, Agbana,